Recording in progress.
We're live.
Okay, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. And we'll start with a roll call. McKee here, Schultz here, Bottom, Barrenkamp
Here.
Nichols.
Here.
Like to stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, agenda approval. Is there anything from staff? I think a couple items.
Yes, Mayor, we have 8 changes. Item 7H was updated. The invoice that was included in the original packet was erroneous, so duplicated change order 2. It has the correct invoice in there now. Item 7K was added, which is draft special meeting council minutes from February 29th. Item 7L was added, which is an amendment to our fee schedule when we recognize that our fee schedule erroneously charged $35 rather than the statutory $30 for non-sufficient funds and ACH bills, so this is to correct that. We have 2 staff reports that were added, one for the cropland bids, which will hit tomorrow. They go live tomorrow. Okay. And the other one is a timeline for a staff project in Granicus. And finally, there's 3 updates under council reports. One, there's an update to 2 of the bills, one from the Senate, one from the House, Senate 3080 and House 2235. And then 2 more were added, item 13D, Senate Bill 3964, 3980, and House Bill 4009, and item 13E, Senate Bill 1370, which is an omnibus bill.
Sounds good.
That's all changes.
Thank you, and I can explain that a little more when we get to that item.
Can I make a request?
Sure.
Can we move those up? Because oftentimes when we have closed sessions, everyone leaves.
Yeah.
And those things, those specific Senate and House bills impact everyone in Corcoran, and they should hear about it and take action.
Completely agree.
Can I apologize, Mayor? I actually, when we talked this morning as staff, I thought we had moved the closed session down to where item 14 is after the council schedule, so that we'd have completed. Would that meet your intention, Councilmember Plotimo?
What do you want? Okay.
So if we move the closed session item 11 to become item 14.
Only if everybody sticks around or watches at home when they go home.
To item 13.
Yeah, so following the city council schedule, that way we'll have completed all discussions when we go into closed session.
Perfect.
And if possible, maybe whether it's in the minutes or somewhere, if we could maybe make a note of this conversation will take place maybe at the timestamp or something like that, so that people looking for it online can quickly on the YouTube.
Sure. Yep.
Perfect. Sounds good. Any other additions, changes, or anything to the agenda from council? No? Okay. I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as modified.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Commission representatives, we have Corinne and Tom from Planning and Parks and Trails respectively. Thank you guys for coming. And then we will go right into quick question, Jay, on the, I know we swapped the order around a couple times. Did we want to do open forum first or
Second.
presentation or open forum first? I know there was a change in that at one point.
The open forum first.
Okay. And we'll go into open forum, so anyone who would like to speak on a non-agenda item, Jay will walk us through.
So first, happy Pie Day, everybody, 3.14. If you haven't enjoyed a pie yet today, I hope you get an opportunity to. Also, in celebration today, for those of you who are not dressed accordingly, celebrating St. Patrick's Day because our city's namesake, Patrick B. Corcoran, came from Ireland, and so I think it's appropriate that in our city we recognize the heritage of our city being traced back to Ireland. One of those things that I'd like to, if I could, tell a quick story, Mayor.
Sure.
Would you permit me?
Absolutely.
So for those of you who don't know, I was a chaplain in the Army, and when I first arrived in Alaska, I went to work for an Irish Catholic priest named Jim Blewett. And when I arrived, he'd come over from Ireland. That's how he got his American citizenship. He goes, Tobin, that's an Irish name. And I said, yes, sir, it is. And he says, well, where's your kin from? I said, well, my kin comes from Kilkenny and Tipperary in Ireland. And he goes, "Oh, well, that be Catholic country. How does a good Catholic boy end up as a Protestant chaplain in the United States Army?" I said, "Oh, sir, that's a very long story." And he says, "Well, Jay, when you come back from the Iraq, you have to come over to the house, and you and I will sit down and talk about it with my friend John Daniels." I said, "Sir, don't you mean Jack Daniels?" He says, "No, Jay, you've known him as long as I have. You call him by his Christian name." So in the spirit of that, I would like to invite everybody who would like to join us at the end of this evening's session to join me at the stanchion for a good St. Patrick's Day beverage of choice on me.
All right.
Holy cow.
For the open forum, just would like to invite anybody to come up. If you were to come up to the microphone, just a couple rules. Anyone who's coming up to the microphone, please direct all of your comments to the dais. Please ensure that we don't use any profanity or aggressive language. And we have to limit your session, if you're coming up in this open part, to 5 minutes as a maximum. So, did I miss anything, Mayor?
I think you got it.
Thank you.
We have to just make sure that either we post if more than 2 of us is going to Jay's open
Oh.
stanchion.
Yeah, on the social. We just can't talk about anything.
Okay, fair enough.
So we did not receive any cards, Mayor.
Okay.
Going once, is there anyone in the audience that would
Can I
like to?
speak in the open forum?
Sure.
Has anybody here ridden a Lyft or an Uber home to Corcoran or
Yes.
from?
From the airport?
Anywhere, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd like to publicly thank Minneapolis for making Uber and Lyft leave the entire Twin Cities metro area. Really appreciate that.
Likely the outcome of that, yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, they announced
Did they
it
announce
today.
it already?
Yeah, like a couple hours ago.
Great.
Good for them.
Fun.
So thank you, Minneapolis, from me and from the rest of the Corcoran.
Anyone else like to speak for open forum? Nope. Okay. Then we will move on to presentations, and we have Hennepin County Commissioner Kevin Anderson here today. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Awesome. I'm Kevin Anderson, for anybody who has not met me yet. I serve the western portion of Hennepin County, it's District 7. Here's a few of the roles that I serve in as a county commissioner. I'm the chair of the Public Works Committee. I'm the vice chair of our Housing and Redevelopment Authority, also the vice chair of our Law, Safety, Justice Committee, as well as our Health and Human Services Committee. I also serve in the last year on our NACO Public Health Subcommittee, which is the National Association of Counties, as well as am active in our local Minnesota Association of Counties. We can continue on. Hennepin County, this is a representation of our budget, and I'm just going to kind of talk through a little bit of what this budget means more for Corcoran residents. As you can see, the largest portion of this budget is Health and Human Services. Over half of our budget is dedicated to that. That is really the function of counties, is to be the social safety net. So that is where most of our resources go, and we can continue on. Some of the things that I wanted to just talk about as it relates to how Hennepin County shows up for Corcoran. We obviously are the social safety net. We also operate or help rebuild and maintain our roads and bridges. We maintain and run our library system. We have a number of partnerships with our law enforcement, and I'll get through some of the numbers on that in our presentation. As mentioned, human services is our number one component. 800 of your neighbors in Corcoran receive services from Hennepin County through various ways, whether it's financial assistance, cash assistance, rental assistance, food assistance. So when we are talking about being present and being available to residents, if you're in need, Hennepin County is the kind of the backing agency to help make sure that you're getting your needs met. We can continue on. Public safety is the next largest portion of our individual budget. Last year, we increased our public safety budget by increasing staffing to the sheriff's department so that we can have more detention deputies and people working in our jails. We also, through that budget, help support our law enforcement through our embedded social worker program. We also have Sentence to Serve crews. Our corrections department works really hard to make sure that people who are going through the system are rehabilitated and gaining useful skills so that they can come out on the other side in a positive and sustainable place in their life. Our Public Works project, we have a number of projects that have happened in Corcoran, more to come. I know recently we had gone through a proposal to the council to try to do some trail work along, I think it was 117? 116. And I know that that was kind of a rushed application process. We're trying to do some gap analysis of where we can apply a new policy that we implemented late last year, and that seemed like a good opportunity to apply for federal money. As you well know, we don't do any road projects really absent partnership with state, federal, and local partners, and so cobbling together the right color of money to get projects done is really important for us. And as we get this, our Complete and Green Streets policy operationalized over the next few years, hopefully we'll have a little bit more lead time to talk about ways that we can make sure that we're meeting the needs of Corcoran residents, and more projects will be coming out. I also do want to flag that our Public Works staff will be reaching out to talk about accelerating reconstruction projects and other projects because of the influx of state dollars that we're receiving. We want to be able to hit the ground running. We've kind of been operating at a deficit for a long time in terms of being able to do public works and road and bridge projects. So I'm really looking forward to being able to accelerate some of those things, but we want to do it in a way that is in partnership with our cities. So expect to have Public Works staff reaching out, finding out what that schedule looks like, what works for the city. So just be on the lookout for that. We can continue on. Youth in Corcoran, one of the programs that we administer is our youth sports grant funding. And youth in Corcoran, whether through partnership with the city or schools that also serve Corcoran, have received $850,000 over the last 10, 15 years here. We also have our school-based mental health program to support any student who's going to a public school in Hennepin County. This is something that we expanded from a pilot project in 2021 to include all schools. We look forward to making sure that if there's a student who's struggling, they have access to the services they need. We also do mentorship programs, tutoring services through the library system predominantly. Maybe on. And so with that, happy to answer any other questions we have.
Any questions for Commissioner Anderson? Dean, is that?
I can start
Oh, I thought
if
you
you
did.
want. No, I was, sure. Traffic is a huge concern of all of ours.
Absolutely.
A couple of weeks ago, a couple of meetings ago, extremely disappointed with the plans to put a roundabout at 19 and 117 to the tune of
I'm gonna round up, probably $4 million with us on the hook for $152,000 in planning fees. The problem I have with that is we're told we have nothing to do with county roads, but yet 152 grand are gonna come out of planning fees, and this update will happen sometime in 2028, 2029. And something needs to happen to that intersection now. That is just, it may have served a purpose at some point, but it's outdated 20 years. I made the suggestion of a simple stop sign and make it a four-way stop with red flashers and stuff. One of the other council members, I think, suggested light the intersection and not pay $4 million for a roundabout. Being on public works, so to speak, why? Why a roundabout? Claiming land, would we claim land off of the Crowhassan Park Reserve, or would it take away from the other three people that own the other three corners? Just not happy with. A sign wouldn't cost that much, stoplights would cost a little bit more, but $4 million for a roundabout. Don't understand the mindset around that. Again, the conversation on the trail along 116, we're already working with Three Rivers on a north-south corridor related to park and trails. So I think we had said that we were supportive of something, but we're already working with the county. You've got up there as one of your bullet points, signals on the Hackamore and 116 road. There has not been, that looked like it's complete, and it doesn't look like we've even really started it yet, other than running some electrical wire and stuff for that.
In progress.
Okay. Very concerned with drive-through traffic. I said that once already. The 610 roundabout looks like that's already happened. I know that's state. But County Road 30 is a cut through. 10 is a cut through. 116 north-south is a cut through. 101 is a cut through. What, if any, plans are there to do anything to help with tremendous number of vehicles that drive through our area? Don't get me wrong, I'm grateful that we do what we do, or the Hennepin County does what they do, and the stuff that's prevented, and those are, and always should be in my mind, given. The stuff like this is serious. I'm deeply concerned about people traveling. I can't stop people from driving their bikes on the side of a road. I don't want anybody injured. We've even got walkers on the side of the roads that won't even walk on the Three Rivers path along with 19. There's disappointment in those people that are not using the amenities that are there right now, but then I'm also extremely concerned about people that are riding bikes, walking along these county roads, and then call and complain about the traffic, and I'm like, I can't do anything about it because they're county roads. Well, what's county doing about it? I don't know. So a whole big loaded question list of stuff.
I'll try to work through as many as I
Okay.
can.
Yep.
And knowing that I think some of these certainly warrant further discussion that we can take, happy to do it anytime as well. So I'll start with the roundabout at 19 and 117 that's being talked about. I know one of the things that is a constant struggle for us is planning for what the future is going to hold, knowing that we don't revisit these things, especially major intersection improvements, sometimes for 20, 30, 40 years. And with the amount of growth that's happening out here, we want to make sure that if we're going to do a major reconstruction or reconfiguration of an intersection, especially like that one that has a 19 that curves, it's not a logical, it doesn't fit the mold of a standard intersection. So I think the thinking, and I haven't talked to the public works, so don't take my word as gospel on this, mind you, is that they want to make sure that they're planning ahead for what the next 20, 30, 40 years is going to be. And so that's going to be a large part of this discussion, especially as we start talking about doing incremental improvements. I think there is room for perhaps a different kind of conversation, especially as it relates to right-of-way alongside a county road. That's a big part of what the Complete and Green Streets policy is going to allow us to. Historically speaking, when we've gone through and done rehabilitation, not reconstruction, mind you, just doing a mill and overlay, something to extend the life of an existing roadway. Historically, what we've done is we take the existing roadway and the existing right-of-way, and we just focus on what we have and extend the life of what we have. The Complete and Green Streets policy allows us to look at what else can be done in that interim measure, knowing that some of these roads might not get revisited for 50 years. And by that point, it will be, you know, development is going to be far different than what the current use is. So I think this touches on a little bit of the
It does,
bikes and peds.
Yeah, but again, on the 119 and 117, why can't they put in a forced stop sign?
I think they could maybe do that in an interim basis, but if they're going to do that, if they're going to solve the intersection, which I think the intersection warrants a different configuration, just because of the traffic
Engineers are
patterns.
probably smarter than me and stuff, but
I'm guessing
some of
they're
the
smarter than me.
accidents that have happened, give the folks a chance, at least make everybody stop at it, is my opinion. Every time I go that way, I gotta stop because people aren't abiding the stop signs or anything. So I mean,
Yep.
our sheriffs are fantastic in Hennepin County and stuff, but they can't be everywhere.
That's right.
And that's the Green Street stuff like that, I understand. The drive-through traffic, is there anything that is being looked at there from the public works side of things?
I think we'll always be looking at traffic patterns and growth patterns. We had our assessor out at a meeting last night. There's going to be a report published
Next Friday.
next Friday. Thank you for remembering that. That talks about where the growth is happening. We all know this, right? It's all happening in Western Hennepin.
Well, it's starting to skip us and go into Wright, and they're all coming through us. So
It's happening here, right?
Yep.
And we see it happening in our backyards, we see it happening in Wright County. Traffic is increasing. We obviously are looking at what that means for capacity planning. I think it is always trying to find a balance of what is the capacity and then how do we make sure that it's safe for the people who are using it. And the safety piece is where that Complete and Green Streets, because if you need extra shoulder width to make sure that there is a safe space for bikes or pedestrians, we want to try to get ahead of that. Obviously, especially on faster roadways, the further separated pedestrians and cars can be, the safer it will be. And that's what we want to try to balance out, and we're going to be looking at that continuously, especially with the 610 completion and the additional traffic that's going to come from that. And you have my commitment that I'm going to be continually advocating for revisiting, counting, doing traffic studies, and making sure that we're trying to stay in front of those trends.
thanks, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Kevin.
I have questions.
Go for it.
I want to thank you. I want to thank you for putting together a packet and customizing it. and coming here tonight. I appreciate that. I consider you our advocate to Hennepin County. We, as a council, talked about some of our beefs with Hennepin County a month or two ago. One of them is that we don't have our crime prosecuted by the Hennepin County attorney. We spend, I mean, you guys just approved $1 billion extra for light rail, and we have as many people that,
Oh, yeah, I mean, that.
we have as many people come through our town every day on the roads as ride the Southwest train in its best expectations. And that costs $4 billion, and we just need some millions of dollars to fix our roads. So there's $4 billion spent on trafficking the same amount of people through our town. It's BS. I feel like our town is abused by Hennepin County. They don't prosecute our cases. They don't spend money on us. They're building another light rail, the Blue Line extension that was announced, I think, yesterday. And it's going through none of your cities. We never get anything that come through our cities. City of Minneapolis is hemorrhaging jobs and buildings. They have the highest vacancy rate of any big town for hotels. No one's going there. And now they're kicking out Uber and Lyft, and they think that that's going to be somehow a positive for the city. I don't get it. We have 3 commissioners, I think, or 4 that represent Minneapolis. Hennepin County, to me, is nothing more than an extension of Minneapolis government. I hope you can do something down there for us. And we've got a lot of needs. We pay a ton to Hennepin County. We don't get anything back. We get some, you articulated some of the things, but the percentage that we pay in compared to what we get out, I bet we pay 10 times what we get out of Hennepin County that we pay in. When you talk down there, is there an echo? Does anybody hear anything you're saying? Does it matter? Do we need a commissioner? If it's a 7-1 vote or 6-1 vote every single time, can you help us at least leave Hennepin County? We voted for that.
I will say, leaving is not really a possibility in a landlocked city. And the process, I mean, I'm sure you're aware of the
I am.
process.
It take an act
I
of
know,
Congress.
I know. It's, I do want to address, I do think that there have been positive steps made towards having our voices in the western suburbs heard at the county board. It's taken a long time. My first year on the board, the first thing that I offered up was a change to our CIP process to take growth into consideration. You may recall I mentioned that the first time we came out here. That's a hard process to change how our public works views and evaluates projects, even based on growth. It's somewhat amorphous, and I am continuing to try that. The Complete and Green Streets policy, I think, is another really positive way that we are going to be able to channel improvements that are needed in western suburban communities like Corcoran, so that our public works is seen as a full partner. And that's what I really want. That's why I spend my weekly meetings with our staff saying, here are the needs in Corcoran, in Hanover, in Dayton, and across my district. So those are the things, hopefully we're seeing more of these projects coming through. Now, I'm not going to be able to stop all the votes. I'm just not. I voted against the $100 million that went into the Southwest Light Rail. You know, I think that serious questions need to be asked about future light rail developments to make sure that it can stand up. But in my comments, when I voted against that, I said, this is $100 million is going to help a project that isn't touching my community. And $100 million would solve a lot of our problems out here. And I want to see some of that come back up. And I'm going to continue to fight for that, so.
One other thing, for gosh sake, can you fix that organics recycling issue?
He took both my questions.
Yeah, sorry. Everyone's pissed, and you're hearing an earful from everybody.
Yeah.
You've got to get that fixed.
Yeah, revisiting ordinances is a long process, and that won't happen before my time. As I had mentioned when I was out in
I was trying to
Rogers,
check,
and
I was trying to look up your vote on that.
I
know,
I wasn't there for
I
it,
know
so
that,
you're gonna
yes.
have a hard time finding it.
Yes.
Can I ask for a clarification on that,
Yeah.
Commissioner? So you say that the ordinance isn't going to be updated in time. There's rumors out that it's actually going to be updated within the next 6 months. And so can you speak to that the MPCA's 5,000 people, Hennepin County is currently 10,000 people is the threshold. And there's rumor mills that Hennepin County is going to change that ordinance within the next 6 months to 5,000 people.
I haven't heard anything about changing the ordinance. That might be statute or guidance from MPCA, which we are not.
Okay, thank you.
So I haven't heard.
I was encouraged there when you said that there's no plan to change the ordinance, because that conflicted with what I've been hearing.
No, I haven't heard anything, and so I would certainly be interested to hear it before it happens.
Thank you.
So, but I know like the last time we revisited an ordinance on my watch was ordinance 19, and EMS staffing levels. That process is honestly still ongoing. So it's not a quick process to update an ordinance on our level. So, or at least that I've had an experience with.
John? All right.
No, he hit my questions. Light rail was a big one. When you mentioned the deficit in public works, I wanted you to clarify that, but the light rail is a huge thing. And then, yes, the organics thing has got a lot of people charged up, being charged a fee for no service.
My
When
wife
we've been
included.
told for years to do recycling and composting on our own, you know?
Yeah.
So.
And I think, especially where, I think there are a few garbage haulers that are taking advantage of this and charging people, myself included, exorbitant amounts that I have yet to be offered the service. So it's frustrating. I hear it. I feel it. So.
Can't you take these other guys back out behind the barn or something?
No.
I got a barn,
I got one too.
no cameras, just saying. And I'm gonna do this, and if I get in trouble, I'm sorry, but if you are a Republic customer, you're getting charged, and curbside doesn't charge, so FYI.
Most of my items were also covered already. I just wanted to really reiterate, and I'm glad you mentioned that staff should be reaching out in the coming months or whatever to have some conversations about kind of reassessing projects and when and moving them up in the priority list, because as we've talked about plenty of times, 30-1610 connects is gonna be significant. I've had some conversations with both our state rep and senator about potential bonding and looking at different options when that time comes. So just want to make sure that we're all on the same page, so when that connection is made in a year and a half, 2 years, that we can act quickly on it and get a plan in place. So perfect. Thank you. And Jeremy?
I have one thing that nobody else brought up. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know if you can do anything about it, but I would love for Corcoran to have a library branch somewhere in town. And as we're starting to get more commercial scale development, especially with senior housing, I think we'd have a lot of users. So it would be wonderful if we could get on a capital improvement plan with the library system at some point in the next 5 to 10 years to get a branch built here.
I was, thank you. And I think making sure that we're talking about any expansions really collaboratively with the community to make sure that it is what the city wants. But when I look at the map of libraries and services, there is a big area that's not, that doesn't show up right here.
Mhm.
So I would love to advocate for that, absolutely.
Wonderful, thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Kevin.
you coming in.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thank
for
you.
having me. I really
Thank you very much.
Anytime. Okay, on to our consent agenda, which consists of items 7A through 7L, I believe was the final with the additions. Does anyone want to pull anything?
Can I pull item 7E, please?
Okay. Anyone else or anything else? Nope, okay. I will entertain a motion to approve consent agenda items A through D and F through L.
So moved.
Second.
Nichols and Fatima. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And then 7E, Alan.
So my question around 7E is regarding the agreement, and I'm wondering, when we have this agreement, we're talking about to protect the city from having two dwellings on the same property. But I don't see what in the agreement protects us from having dual occupancy while both buildings are up. And what if the building is not removed by the 6/30/25 date? So I guess my suggestion is before escrow is removed, and based on certificate of occupancy, we have some type of assurance that that other building cannot be used as a dwelling, whether that's disconnection of utilities to it or something in advance.
So staff has talked about this, and Mike, do you want to speak?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, council members. Yeah, so I think if there's concerns that you have like that, I think we can absolutely amend this. You know, right now, we are holding a substantial escrow as part of this, $10,000, I believe, and we do have, I think it's point number 5 here, where if we do have to go in, we do have to pursue legal action to remove the second dwelling. Any costs that come to the city would be, we could charge them, we could assess it to the property, so I think we are covered there. As far as if it's not done by June 30th, if there were circumstances out of anyone's control, I mean, we'd obviously want to work with the property owner, but if it came to that the intent is to try to have two properties, I think we absolutely have the right to go after them. Our attorney feels comfortable with the language. To go further, I did confirm with Chief Lure at West Suburban Fire that is their intention, is to use that existing home as a training burn.
Okay. But can you clarify for me then? So the escrow is removed once they issued a certificate of occupancy?
No, the escrow would be held until the home is completely raised and removed from the property.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And whatever that is, whether if West Suburban falls through or anything like that happens, we would still require it to be removed.
Okay. All right.
It'll cost way more, if they didn't have, it'll cost way more than 10 grand to burn and raise that building, just FYI.
Possibly, depending on, number of factors, asbestos, things like
No,
that.
For sure it will.
Yeah.
But it's possible.
I'm 100% confident that it will be.
Yep.
So we don't usually have an escrow for the total amount though, do we?
It's deposit. So it's like a security deposit, and then we
Yeah.
can always charge, give them a balance due.
Okay. I didn't know how that worked. Thanks, Mike. And way to wear green. I'm not wearing any green.
Green socks.
I didn't know about it.
All right, I'll make a motion to accept 7E then.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Take your pick, Michelle. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Perfect.
Just gonna pick me, my name is shorter.
Okay, on to planning business. We do have a public comment opportunity for planning items. We just have 8A, which is an interim ordinance discussion. So if anyone would like to speak on that, please come on up to the mic and state your name and address.
Mr. Mayor, point of clarity, I don't.
Oh, we do have a
speak
public
on-
hearing, don't we?
Yeah.
Scratch that since it's the only item. I will go ahead and open the public hearing.
Did you want a presentation before we open the floor?
Sure.
So it's a real brief one. So this item before you tonight is based on city council and staff were made aware of concerns regarding perceived ambiguity and how development rights within the city code have historically been interpreted within the rural commercial and transitional rural commercial districts. A potential desire to move away from historical precedent, raise questions on how underlying district standards and development intensity interplay with and without development rights in these districts. So City Council directed staff to prioritize reviewing development rights and the district standards of these two districts within the 2024 work plan as part of an ongoing study of commercial industrial district standards that is underway. And staff believes at this time, a responsible approach to determine the best way to review standards and address noted concerns is to adopt an interim ordinance in the rural commercial and transitional rural commercial districts that would apply to all development applications in these districts. The proposed moratorium would be in place for 1 year or until the city has studied the issue and updated the city code. And so this up in front of you is the map of the area. It's highlighted, circled in red. And then staff does recommend adopting the interim ordinance 2024-515 as drafted. And please let me know of any questions.
Any questions for Natalie?
Does that impact other areas too, or just that one area?
That one area, because that's all of our rural commercial and transitional rural commercial parcels.
That one area, but it's multiple properties.
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? Discussion? No?
Yes, you will want to open the public hearing, yeah.
What would I do without you guys? I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing now officially.
Mayor and Council, Scott Dahlke, Civil Engineering Site Design here on behalf of property owner Craig Sherber with Sherber and Associates. They own the property that we were in here just a short while ago looking at a development project here in this zoning district here on the north of County Road 30 and east of 19. When I asked staff, a letter was submitted by Craig's attorney requesting that his property be excluded from that moratorium, from this moratorium request. Has that been received?
It was included in the packet.
Okay. So we're, we just want to, first confirm that was received, I guess, and it does go of record. As you know, we have been working with staff for a long time on this. We started a couple of years ago with initial discussions on this. We're not understanding why now the moratorium needs to come into place. Why wasn't it a couple of years ago that this was brought forward? We have been working to comply with the comments that were last received that indicated our application was incomplete. We've gone through every one of those comments. We put time and effort and addressed all those comments, and we resubmitted updated plans here just yesterday. So we've been actively pursuing moving forward with our understanding and our interpretation of the ordinance and how it's written. And so I guess, again, I'd like to appeal that this property be excluded. We would intend to continue to work with staff and come to try and continue to move forward, but still working under the umbrella of the ordinance as it's written.
Okay.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak? No? Okay, then I will make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Mayor, if I could respond to a question before discussion, if
Sure.
I may.
Go ahead.
So the question was asked by Mr. Dahlke, why now? And to speak explicitly, it was because at the applicant's request, they asked to meet with me and then asked to come before this body in order to have their concept plan reviewed. And the driving question behind that was they had concerns about the clarity of the rural commercial and transitional rural commercial ordinance. Because they raised that, staff had the position that we thought it was quite clear what it was with building rights. They raised the concern that it was unclear, and it was out of their concerns that we're wanting to address this as expeditiously as possible. So in speaking with legal counsel, this was most expeditious means in order to address their concerns.
Thanks for clarifying. So we did have a motion and a second on that, and all those in favor say aye.
Wait, about what?
On the
Closing
closing
the
of
hearing.
public.
Oh, yeah.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, discussion on the item. John, did you have something, or?
No,
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I was just, yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Totally gotcha. Anyone have an item they'd like to?
The moratorium doesn't slow the work that we ask staff to do. It's just
No.
taking time to be diligent about it and making sure that nothing else comes in and interferes with that.
That's exactly it, council member. It ensures that we don't have another applicant come in with the applicant's concern. This allows us to resolve the applicant's concern so that we can move forward, and they can move forward with their project with clarity on where that is. And it frees the planning commission and the planners up to ensure that we've resolved it without any other work coming forward that would have the same concern.
And this isn't a denial, correct?
No, at this point it is not.
Is the application still valid?
Councilor Bottom, the application is still incomplete. We haven't done a formal review yet of the materials received to date, but the feasibility study, infrastructure feasibility study is still underway. Both incomplete letters sent to the applicant, both in 2022 and 2023, made it clear that the feasibility study needed to be completed prior to a complete application. So at this time, it's incomplete. The feasibility study is expected to be completed beginning of April potentially. And at that point, the application would become complete, but because of the moratorium being in place, we would have to process it based on the moratorium, and we would do that working with the city attorney.
Mayor Tom,
Yes.
can I address? You can't say that,
Great.
Please walk up.
If you could come up to the,
you can't say the application is incomplete and then have something in your complete control, which is a study. They've had 5 months to do the study. Is the study done? Is it in process?
I don't know.
No, they
that's
haven't done
accurate.
anything. That way they can hang their hat on, it's incomplete.
So
That's totally unfair.
what I think is unfair, sir, is two things, if I could respond. One, the reason the feasibility study isn't complete is because, do we have the date in which
I
the?
do. So we were waiting on outstanding information. That outstanding information was received January 24th of this year. And then also on that date, staff received a pause request from the applicant for a 30-day pause, which ended February 24th, 2024. The feasibility has been underway since the pause ended, and it's typically a 4 to 6 week turnaround. We're at about week 3 right now, and is anticipated to be online with our typical timeframe.
So
as
that's
a-
what, if I could address the second one. So that's one point I wanted to make. The second one is, when we spoke in my office, sir, I said we'd get you on here on February 8th to express your concern. You expressed your concern about the ambiguity, about the building rights, and we are expeditiously trying to address your concern. It was the last meeting when we got the guidance to potentially go forward with this idea. This is the most expeditious manner to address your concern.
Let's do a 2-month moratorium, not a 1 year. And you can extend that for another 6 months. We could be potentially looking at 18 months if I agreed to this. Is that not correct? Natalie, you know that. You can extend it 6 months beyond the year. That's your right.
The city attorney typically does not recommend extending a
Yeah, we have
moratorium.
been told in
And
certain
the
scenarios.
Staff does plan to come to a work plan in front of the city council on March 28th that would prioritize this along with our storage moratorium, and then the rest of the updates would be after that. So we're thinking of a 3-stage thing, and this would be stage 1. So we are hoping it would be a matter of months, not the full year.
So if we could talk timelines for a second. October 17th is when the incomplete letter was sent to you, and we didn't receive the feasibility materials until January. And so that timeline, and that's when the feasibility study was starting. So the timelines are appropriate. If we'd received them in October, it would be done.
But regarding the timeline of the moratorium, just because it's in place for a year doesn't mean that it can't be ended prior to that if the work is complete.
So the timeline, Mayor and Council, is we've got that projected as a priority for the Planning Commission for the second quarter, per the guidance that we received from you. So we're trying to act on it as expeditiously as possible, with the good spirit by which I invited the applicant on February 8th to come forward. I'm asking to extend the same good spirit as we're trying to respond to your request
Second quarter starts in
in a week.
10 days.
Yeah, so it's on the agenda for the next commission meeting.
Well, for the next commission meeting.
For the first Thursday in April.
April.
April 4th.
And then the council will receive it when? Their recommendation, the planning commission's recommendation.
So again, the work plan has not been at this point revised, so I don't have it completely written out. The intent is to bring it as a discussion item April 4th to the Planning Commission, and then feedback would be provided for council for further direction, and then we start talking about drafting ordinances per the direction of council.
So for timeline for the mayor and council, second quarter, if we're able to deliver it as you've requested by the end of the second quarter, that's less time than the applicant had before, until he responded to the request for the feasibility materials. I just want to point that out in terms of responsiveness.
Is it standard procedure in the city of Corcoran to put a moratorium on when there's a completed application?
You came forward and requested, sir, for us to address a concern,
I have
and
a
that's what we're
completed
doing.
application as of today, you're considering a moratorium.
I don't.
Is that standard?
That's,
No, not at all.
No, not at all. That's correct.
But it also wouldn't be standard that an applicant would come forward and have the kind of request that raised a concern for what you perceived as a ambiguity in our code, and that's what we're addressing. We didn't feel it was ambiguous. We're responding to your concern.
I think your attorney agreed that it wasn't clear. Did he not?
So should we resolve it or not, sir?
You should resolve it.
Thank you.
You can't put a moratorium when there's a completed application, when I've got an application.
You don't have a completed
that's
application.
the issue.
And that's your opinion because the study isn't done, that's something in your control. So it's out of my control.
But it's
They
still
have
standard
not- they have
practice.
not told-
Standard practice is 3 to 6 weeks for the feasibility study.
Right. So, I mean, I think we can get to work on this and hopefully find a good outcome out of it. I don't know the specific timing of that, but at least the initial time to get the project work started, we know, would be pretty quickly here. We're talking weeks.
The recommendation from the planning commission will come to this council, what, on the 25th of April?
I can bring feedback. I can bring the feedback from Planning Commission on the 25th. Yes.
So that'd be no different than if we didn't have a moratorium, or probably even faster.
It's going to take time to draft the ordinance, though. This is.
No, but I guess what I'm saying is if we put this in process even without the moratorium, that's the fastest it could come.
The concern with the moratorium is if any other applicant comes in
Right, so
without the moratorium.
this stops that process.
Correct.
And lets us focus on his issue.
Correct.
If I can ask
Yeah.
a question, I've been part of these conversations and stuff. Has there ever been anything for this property before that October timeline?
Had there been
Yeah,
application?
it's in the packet. There's been
Yeah, so
ongoing
there,
discussion.
I can go through the
Yep,
timeline.
no, I know it's in the packet, I want
Yes.
I
so-
want to continue the conversation. There was something for this property prior to the October one, so just for the
Correct.
record, I want, if you could just run through that for me,
Yes,
please.
yes, it absolutely can. Staff has met with the applicant, a couple of times in person with engineering, and both Landform and myself were at those meetings. At that time, the process was explained where we highly encouraged and recommended a concept plan be submitted. A formal land use application for a preliminary plat was submitted, I believe at the end of November in 2022, and an incomplete letter was sent December 8th, again detailing what was missing, including the fact that a feasibility study needed to be processed.
In December of 22?
2022, and then
Okay.
on that same day, as a response, the applicant requested the application be withdrawn. And again, the
Okay.
applicant was strongly encouraged to move forward with a concept plan to address these questions that he had brought up. And then an application was again submitted in October after no communication with staff in the meantime.
October of 23.
Yes, and then a second incomplete letter pretty much reiterating the points in the December 8th, 2022 letter was sent on October 23rd, 2023. I believe there was a few phone call conversations between Landform to discuss what was, and the applicant to discuss what was needed for the feasibility study. Outstanding information was finally received January 24th of 2024. And then that same day was when we received a request for a 30-day pause on the application so that a concept plan could be reviewed by City Council.
Thank you very much.
And we have
Well,
done
let
moratorium.
John first.
Oh,
and then-
sorry.
Sorry.
I didn't hear.
Moratoriums have to be a year?
No,
We can end
And they
it
can end
anytime we
early
want.
as well.
No, but can, yeah, I get that. We can end it early, but do we have to set it at, I mean, if we're worried about,
I don't believe we have to set it at a year. I think it's probably the safer thing to do because it's easier and less, like, we've gotten the feedback sometimes from John that we don't want to do a back-to-back extension, that, like, the 6 months that was raised before.
Yeah, I get
So I think
that.
that same philosophy might apply to if you did a 2-month moratorium. Probably would not be preferable to do another 2 months. It'd be
No, yeah.
preferable to do
so
a
let's,
year and then cut it off at 4 months when it's ready.
yeah, so like if we pretend that the timeframe's gonna hold, which it probably should, it will, probably, then we're looking at April 25th when we see it and discuss it and probably make a decision that night or the thing after, then,
To be clear,
That would be
there will not
information.
be a draft on the 25th.
no, we
Yeah.
get a draft.
The
and
April
then
meeting will
come
be
back
a
to us
draft.
for final approval, right?
So typically, to navigate these collaborative processes, we go to the planning commission to get some initial feedback.
Yeah.
We bring those findings back to you for further discussion,
Then
and
go
then that helps us
draft.
inform the first draft, which we bring it back to you, to then okay to go to a public hearing. So I would say optimistic, aggressive timeline, we're all on the same page as to, and you like the first draft, or there's very minimal changes that need to be made to the first draft, I believe June public hearing would be the earliest we would see that, and that is the goal. But I also want to make sure we have wiggle room in case that turns into July, just due to wanting to think through the implications of any changes.
That's why we put it in the second quarter work plan, so that the legwork that can happen, and then the finalization should happen by the end of the second quarter, ideally, as long as everything goes according to plan.
Government moves so slow sometimes.
So,
The
yeah,
sequencing is hard.
Huh?
The sequencing is
Yeah.
No,
hard.
I know,
but the full application was received yesterday.
Yesterday afternoon, we received the application, new application materials. They will be
Okay.
under review by Landform for completeness. And then again, the feasibility study is expected to be available by the beginning of April.
But the start of the clock is yesterday, and then how long usually do we do?
The start of the clock, so if everything else on the letter is addressed, then the start of the clock wouldn't start until the feasibility study is
Is
finished.
done, thank you. No.
Does the sorry, can I just ask one quick,
Sure.
sorry.
Go ahead.
The feasibility study doesn't stop during the moratorium, does it?
No.
Okay.
Jeremy?
I was just going to point out that we've done moratoriums prior to other significant code reviews in the recent past, like the Northeast District guidelines, that was a 11-month, I think, moratorium. We have one on storage because we wanted to revisit that. We considered, I think, doing one for the industrial revisions that we've been looking at, and actually are deprioritizing so we can focus on this area. It is standard practice to use a moratorium during these study periods, is what I was hoping to point out.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Anything else? Or someone want to,
Can I make a comment?
yeah, if you'd like to come up to the mic, we can do one more, but then we gotta,
Just to follow up on that, thank you for bringing that up, because I know there was, with the moratorium for the storage, council did offer a property in the Pioneer Trail Industrial Park project to be exempt from that moratorium. We're just asking for the same thing.
If I can, that project received preliminary approvals, and that is why it was exempted. It wasn't a request, it had to be exempt for state law.
right, and it wasn't also the nature of what we're looking at doing.
It wasn't the catalyst for the discussion.
Right.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I'll move to approve.
So just to clarify, is that adopting ordinance 2024-515 and summary ordinance 2024-516?
Yes.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
I'm still, I don't know, if we're thinking we can get it done. I know a year makes it easy on.
If it's done ahead of that, it means just an agenda item to, I believe, just a resolution to.
So if I could speak to that for a second.
We are already moving as fast as we can from the point of the start of the conversations.
Yeah, council member,
You're
if
doing
we
everything
weren't
you can.
able, if something were to happen and we weren't able to finish it, if you were to curtail that, then we'd have to come back and extend it.
No,
and
I
that's
understand
additional
that.
work.
I understand.
Whereas I don't even think optimistically, I think realistically, this will get done as quickly as we can and it will be over. And we'll address the applicant's concerns with clarity, which is everyone's desire.
Okay,
This just frees up staff's time to not, if another application comes in of any kind in that district, you don't have to look at it, correct?
Correct, it frees up, it will definitely free up capacity with the pace of development right now, not just in this area, but just the city across the board. Staff capacity is at an all-time high, or at an all-time low.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
So, being able to streamline it is the intent of the moratorium, and it will support staff's ability to actually move through getting something drafted and adopted as soon as possible.
I'm sympathetic to the applicant.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's frustrating. We have to have the code right.
I agree. We did have a motion and a second. Was there any other comments?
Mayor, I think you might need to provide clarity about the request for exclusion.
I would suggest that we do not exclude it, based on it's kind of the nature of what we're studying here with the moratorium, and the difference. The example was brought up of the Pioneer Industrial Park, and that was a completed application. There's that difference as well. So I would say, no to that. Do you think we need to include that in the motion? Or-
I would suggest that we include it in the
So
motion.
Jeremy, would you, are you willing to withdraw your motion?
Amend my motion to that effect,
Or-
yes.
Okay, and who seconded that? Alan?
second.
Second to that effect, okay. Any further discussion after that? All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you very much. Okay. We have no unfinished business, so we will move on to new business, which we just have one item. We do have a public comment opportunity for item 10A, which is the stanchion music and event request for July 4th, 2024. So before we do that, we'll go into the public comment opportunity, and then we'll hear from staff and the applicant. Okay, then we'll hear from, let's do staff first, and then, that's my headphones, sorry about that.
You okay?
And then the applicant.
Okay. Applicant reached out to me with some questions regarding the rodeo weekend. And it's a similar event that has been sponsored in a prior year by the applicant, the stanchion. And she is here today to also present to council her idea and what she'd like to do. And the date would be July 12th and 13th of 2024.
Perfect. I don't know why I
Christy,
have
if you'd like to
both.
approach the podium.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. So my name is Christy. I am from the Stanchion, and I'm here today to talk to you about our rodeo weekend that I would like to put on. Again, this would be for Friday night and Saturday night is mostly what I'm asking your permission for. In previous years, we have had music go until 12:20, 12:30. I'm asking this year if we can extend that to go till 1 o'clock. And the reason being is most people were leaving and they were going to other places because I didn't have the music going until 1 a.m. I'm willing to, have a conversation with you guys about that, but, so I already have bands set up, I have a tent set up. I haven't signed any contracts or anything because I wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page. But it's really Thursday, we have bingo, and then Friday, we don't have anything during the day. We would start music at 9 or 10. Most bands only play for 3 hours at a time, and the same with Saturday night.
Gotcha.
I would add too that the applicant does have the 2 a.m. license.
Right.
I do.
Yep, I saw that.
So I do have a 2 a.m. license. We don't ever use, I can't even tell you last time that we've used our 2 a.m. license. But we would do last call at 12:45.
Okay. Gotcha. And other than that, it'd be basically the same as last year, other than the time change potentially?
Correct,
Gotcha.
yeah. So I've already gotten permission to use the church parking lot.
Great.
Because I know parking's a huge issue. I know last year, there was some problems with people parking on the city property. So I'll make sure and work with Kevin if I can to, avoid that. But, overall, I don't think that we had any issues. I had the police department come, and I also hired 2 private security people that were there every night. And plus my staff, I have, maybe 16 staff members there every night, so.
Gotcha. Matt, just a quick question to you. I know in the past when this request has come up, we've had some conversations about the timing. Do you have any concerns with the potential pushback of, 20, 30 minutes there?
No, I think we, during the first year or two, there was just wanting to see how things played out and kind of what the event looked like and how it took shape and what kind of neighborhood issues concerns it would bring up, and we haven't had any issues in the past. They've been very responsive, been working with us for appropriate planning, and during the night of, they've been good to work with on it, so I don't have concerns.
Great.
Have there been any complaints in the past?
Not that I've heard. Not in there. We get them from the Lions Park venue, but not in the stanchion yet.
Does it irritate Maple Grove residents?
From what I've heard, yes.
Lions Park does, yes.
I've heard most of the complaints are not from the Corcoran
Yeah,
residents.
I
There
just
by
want to
there.
make sure.
Yeah, our voicemail's the following.
Yeah, if you could point the
these are-
speakers towards Maple Grove, that would be.
Yeah, just reroute the call to their city hall.
So, but just to be clear, with all the houses being built across the street from the bar, it wouldn't surprise me if people
Yeah.
complained. You know, I do want to continue to keep doing this on a yearly, so, I mean, whatever I can do, I think it really helps that it's in the back of the bar and underneath the tent to seclude some of the noise, and all the people around me is the industrial.
For sure, and maybe if you could, you know, make a social media post or something just to try to get the word out so people know ahead of time. So I could certainly see a scenario where people have no idea that something's going on, and
Sure.
there's loud music playing at 1 a.m. and they call and complain, but I think like the signs by Lions Park have actually helped quite a bit, that people know something's gonna happen, and
Sure.
then it.
So the Lions have their big
Right.
thing that they put out, I could borrow that from them.
Yeah, we could figure out some details of it, either that or social, or just getting the word out, you know, over time.
Maybe just an advertisement of the bands that are gonna be there
Yeah.
and what time they're playing to out front, just could be more of a commercial advertisement that
Would
could
we-
work as a dual purpose.
Would they need a signage for a sign
Just like I didn't hear this.
permit then for that?
Signs.
I see her cringing and my big thing, folks, how many people we got online?
5.
All right. Welcome
says
to
6.
Corcoran. I don't know how many times I hear, this is why I moved there. It's rural, we have the rodeo, we have Corcoran Days, we have the stanchion, keeping these things going. I'm gonna say it like one more time, welcome to Corcoran, and another 40 minutes on the bandstand and stuff like that. They're already cutting off, as far as last call, 12, what'd you say?
We would do 12:45.
12:45. Welcome to Corcoran.
Yeah.
That's my stance on the whole thing.
Be a good introduction
You'll be
to
asleep
the
3
new
hours
residents.
by the time the band plays.
I'll be driving by at 7 o'clock and I'm stopping both nights because that's work night both nights, but, I'll be there.
Sounds plenty fun.
If we don't have anything else, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Christie, these are easier to say yes to because you have a track record of, I know it was kind of hard the first year because I think I was part of that. We were always like, this is a test, and you've passed
Proving
that.
yourself.
You've been really good and a real good neighbor and
Thank you.
an addition to Corcoran.
Makes a
Great
big
job.
difference. We appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
See you in a little bit.
Thank you.
You know half the town's gonna be there, right? 'Cause you put it on,
Everybody,
here was your pension.
Okay.
Tom's gonna close the place down.
Let's see your staff reports next with the amended agenda. So we have 12A cropland bid update.
Sure, so we are just in the process of the bidding. So the ad was placed last week, so bidding will start actually tomorrow, and it will run through the 27th. And so we'll do a presentation to council of the bids that we received on the 28th. And then we'll probably look for further direction at that point on if the original council direction was option 1 and then option 3. I'll do some checking to find out if option 1 is actually a viable option with Hennepin County with the tax part. And then we might have to have a discussion on mowing or spraying, which was the option 3.
If we don't have viable.
Yes,
Gotcha.
yep,
Makes sense.
okay.
Okay, and then 12B was timeline for staff and project status.
Granicus.
That's what I thought. My latest version doesn't have Granicus on there, but that update.
So pretty exciting. Council approved a Granicus implementation for software to help staff with the agenda building software, probably September, October of last year. So we started training. We've been doing kind of train the trainer at this point. It got put on hold for a little bit with elections, and so we've just completed the train the trainer portion this last week. And so we're looking to do software introductions on Granicus to staff beginning in April, and also trying to incorporate some tentative dates for when we can do a trial run, and then also do a streaming run. And those will also be planned for like mid-April, end of April.
Gotcha. Great. That's exciting.
And
looking
probably
for?
training for council too on some of the other features. iLegislate, I think, might be really beneficial for council in that you can actually use your computer and take notes, like right on your agenda.
Cool. Yeah, it has a lot
Being
of.
like Jeremy's already doing it,
Yep.
his personal deal.
But it'll be in his whole system.
Maybe.
Yeah, we don't know that he's doing that. He could be just drawing.
No, I've been watching, that's what
Part of
he's
the
doing.
public record, if you take notes on, whatever you take notes on your Granicus during a council meeting.
It's a good John Thames
That's-
question.
That's a good question. I'll look into that.
Yeah, not sure. We don't have to use it.
Nobody can read your writing anyhow.
That's true.
So
Yes.
I'm right there
Okay.
with you.
Well, one thing that I would mention, an advantage potentially with Granicus is, in other cities I've worked in, we've been able to go potentially paperless, which allows the updates to be a lot more responsive. So as things change, it allows for the dynamic nature of municipal business. In today's world, we can get you the updates right away. We don't have to do the email exchange. We don't have to, it can get updated on a tablet or an iPad if we were to give you those. And then the distribution of packets becomes a lot more seamless.
So just real quick, I asked that question a few years ago. Why do we need all of this when we could be electronic? We just didn't have the system to do that.
I think
I
that's
think-
part of it.
Somebody had mentioned that we needed hard copies.
I think part of the
For
issue is
some
if
reason.
you, especially if you go on, and it's gotten better recently, but still sometimes an issue for the bigger packets with where they're hosted now. If you're opening that up, a lot of times they'll crash by the time you get to the bottom.
Yeah, I walk away and come back the next day is what I do.
Sometimes, yeah, although I've had
Being on
some where
DSL.
couldn't get to, even on a good connection, couldn't get to the end or to a specific item that I was looking
All right.
for. But I think with Granicus, that won't be a concern. So,
If you push out updates, would they be able to show us red lines so we can just focus on the things that have changed?
Once
Or would
we,
it be a replacement of the old and it would be hard to tell?
Jay might be able to speak to this since I'm not completely familiar with Granicus yet. I don't know an answer to that, but
So we'd actually, my experience has been we'd actually have to send you updates and let you know this changed. So there'd be an information exchange that way, but the data itself, where it resides, so it'd be more like when I say, these are the things that change in the item. I did not experience a red line version,
Okay.
but
I wouldn't be shocked if they had it though.
yeah,
I think that would be much more efficient. Because, for example, when I'm reading planning commission packets, if nothing is changing when it comes to council, I still have to go through everything to tell that nothing has changed. If there are things that are modified based upon recommendations or the applicant did something different, it would be very efficient to know exactly how it's different from the planning commission's version so that we can just focus on those differences. when it
there
comes
might
to
be a
this.
way for us to track changes that we just never turned on. That'll be a question that I'll ask when I get my training.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, and then item 13, I believe it's still 13, we moved it around a little bit, but council reports. I asked staff to include in the packet a number of bills that are being proposed in the legislature right now. And Jay and I have been spending the last couple weeks kind of tracking where they're going and what's been introduced and what committees they're going to. Simplest way to summarize this is that most of the bills in 13A, B, and C, and D really, have been consolidated into a zoning omnibus bill that will be considered sometime before the end of the session here. That basically includes most of the major provisions from those bills in what is now Senate File 1370. And that is the one that, like I said, it has all of these provisions in it that are of particular concern to cities across the state. I know John was talking earlier about how some of the proposed legislation is a really big deal. It is. It's a lot of the stuff. One of the bills that got included here is actually a direct copy of the bill that we last year sent in a resolution expressing our opposition to the Legalized Affordable Housing Act or whatever. They took that bill, reintroduced it, changed a couple things, and then included it in this one with bills such as the I'm trying to think of the missing middle housing bill, which is another bill with some pretty significant changes to how development works, and how, it would change densities, housing types that are required for us to allow essentially everywhere. It would eliminate single-family zoning, allow duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes, or more, depending on XYZ, certain different factors in different areas. But broadly speaking, it would eliminate the city's local control. It would take away our ability to have any sort of aesthetic mandate or requirements and design standards that we've spent a lot of time on trying to find good standards for different areas of the city. We'll throw that out the window. It would do things like cut down setbacks, reduce minimum lot sizes, and then also increase that density on those smaller lots. And that mandated density doesn't have any sort of mechanism to fund the infrastructure that would be needed to support a massive increase in density. There's a lot more in here. I definitely recommend, particularly the Senate File 1370, that you read through that. And I will do my best to keep everyone posted in the public and in council and commissions on additional bills that are proposed, or if there's any other kind of confusing pathways that these bills take. But I know from speaking to some other mayors and from a couple groups that I'm part of that there's a broad coalition at the legislature for this package. There's a broad coalition of cities and elected officials from cities across the state that are opposing this for obvious reasons, I think. And I think that it would probably be in our best interest to, at some point, consider doing the same thing that we did last year with a resolution of opposition, or however that would be worded. So my suggestion would be for us to direct staff to have something drafted for the March 28th meeting that we could send in. I'm also going to be meeting with someone from the League of Minnesota Cities soon to discuss maybe what the best method for us to advocate with other cities on this is. My only concern is that the way that the legislature has been going this session, they're moving pretty quickly, that something could happen and this could get approved prior to our next meeting. So
Can we, I mean.
Can we
it's
say
kind of a
something
waste
now?
Well, it's a waste of, may I speak?
yeah,
I think it's gonna be a waste of staff time, because the message is simple, that we oppose the bill and would like to have the tradition of local government deciding housing standards still be in place. And so it's sort of like a proclamation for the city. It doesn't have to be that detailed, because people aren't gonna it should be short anyways, people are gonna read it in depth.
Yep.
We got so much for the city staff to do. It should be like a couple sentences, we oppose these bills.
and there's some similar
Remain in
language.
favor of, what?
There's some similar language in the couple letters I attached from
Yeah.
League and Metro Cities and Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities that have some bullet points to those.
Are they gonna retrofit these to the existing cities that have houses? Or are they gonna only impose them on
This would be everywhere.
the cities? I'm just kidding, right? Because all the other cities in Minnesota that are developed
Right.
they had local control of their city. So there's
It
like,
hits us and cities like us the worst.
there's like 30 cities around the Twin Cities that the state will come in and say, hey, Corcoran, here's your new code. So we're fighting a battle against the 100 cities that are already developed. They don't care at all.
I
if
will say,
Corcoran has a
I've
say.
spoken to a number of mayors of cities that would fall into that category, and they are also opposed to it. And they also recognize that this would be bad for them, it would be devastating for us.
We'd have to stop.
And
We
there's
just stop- I
there's
don't think we
provisions
can
in here.
stop develop.
Right, there's provisions in here that would even prohibit a city from enacting a moratorium
Every builder would just come in and
retroactive.
build whatever the hell they want.
And when it comes to
much.
zoning, if I could, Councilmember, one of the things that's really concerning is all the effort that's gone in, even tonight's discussion. Our commercial area, our business
That's
park,
another big one.
could become multifamily without any control.
It would
And
allow-
it doesn't take any consideration into the infrastructure that's necessary to support these initiatives. It's not addressed in the bills at all. When I raised, when we were at the Capitol last Thursday, and then I've had other conversations with folks, when I raised those concerns, it's very poo-pooed away because, to your point, Councilmember Bottomod, the folks that are driving this already have the infrastructure to support it. And so they're not concerned because it's not going to impact them. What they're worried about is redevelopment spots, not development.
I think one unappreciated aspect, your mind might naturally go to, are the roads big enough to support 8 times higher density? But sewer capacity is another big one.
Exactly.
And we might want to rechristen this bill the Sewer Overflow Act of 2024, given that Corcoran doesn't even have the sewer capacity to support its existing MUSA if it were to fully build out. So, and I think existing cities would also be negatively impacted if you can take down a single-family home and construct an 8-unit condo or rental unit on that same space. That's still a significant impact. There wouldn't be parking for that number of cars in
And
a
another
city block.
provision prohibits cities from implementing any sort of restriction on parking. As well as, kind of to Jay's point of, any commercially zoned property would allow by right multifamily, so
Duplex to
essentially,
eightplex.
well, that as well as apartments, and there would be no height limit that is lesser than the tallest structure within, I think it's like a half mile or 3/4 mile, something, of the site. So, if you think like it'd be the water tower for up along that County Road 30 corridor, up to 150 is what they cap it at. So, you know.
So they could build the next wave away from the water tower to 150, and then the next wave could be 150.
Or 100, whatever our
everywhere.
tower's at,
Wow.
yeah. 120, 130.
This is what happens when you have one party rule.
You know, it's certainly
These were
can
coming
be,
up
but
before
it's
that.
this is a
It's
weird
true.
coalition of not fully either party. It's kind of it's a group that you will never see probably vote on other things together again. It's on this one issue
Yeah,
they
you
are,
are right about that.
which has made it harder to predict how it's going to go.
Yeah.
I mean,
Um,
this is driven by people who will profit from building housing.
I think there's definitely an element to that, yeah.
An interesting commentary, our chair of our planning commission did write an op-ed, I believe you probably all received that. What I thought was interesting is the Star Tribune is planning on printing that this weekend.
Yep, on the 17th.
So Corcoran will have a voice in the metro this weekend in terms of our opposition to this. But as far as a listening ear from other folks, I keep, every time I get to a microphone, I'm like, if you don't know, get educated about it and call your elected officials.
Yep. I will say I've had some very promising conversations with Representative Robbins and Senator Limmer that don't believe that they're in support of this bill. But it's, again, it's not the party issue so much, it
That's
just makes
true.
it tricky.
It does seem like these bills are getting more extreme every year. They've been
Yes.
trying to pass them for the last 3 or 4. They keep
Yes.
getting less realistic.
Yep, they did that with that bill that they reintroduced. They made it a little bit less realistic, less beneficial really to anyone, and then they added in all these other side bills with the parking and the commercial multifamily with no height limitation and XYZ, and made it just,
It's a strange strategy. I'm wondering if they're going to back off on 2/3 of it next year to try to get something actually approved for once.
Could
Like
be.
they're trying to desensitize people.
Yeah, or it's way less extreme than the last time we tried this. Can we do a moratorium now instead of after?
that is a tricky
Depends on-
question.
So if it were to actually get adopted the way it is, we have no ability to do a moratorium. So we could go through the process in the event
And then
that
it just
that
gets
clause gets
nullified?
removed, but it would make it like null and void. So
They
it
can
just-
nullify existing city legislation?
Yes.
It supersedes.
This is really, it's appalling.
Yeah.
I mean, the minimum lot size of 1,200 square feet for a townhome, how big are those townhomes, 50 square feet? Like, and then no setback, I'm
And
horrified.
essentially anything that's beyond the building code is all that can be required according to the.
I have a
legislation.
question.
I want my blue shed back, Corinne.
I got horses living in it.
All right.
If this were to be approved, what could we do with park dedication to increase?
Isn't that part of it too?
That is
That's
part of
capping?
this, part of the, I believe part of, that made it into the omnibus, if not, it's in another bill, would cap park dedication, I believe at 10%, and then have a number of standards that would start deducting from that 10%. So we couldn't increase, it would actually have to decrease, and then I think like 32-foot wide roads would be the standard. Anytime a developer decided to do wider than 32 feet, the additional square footage is deducted as land dedication from that 10%. And same with sidewalks and trails and.
Sidewalks too?
I believe so. It was at least talked about at some point. I'm not sure if that made it into the final one or not, but I can do some digging on that. But it had a number of things that were deducting from that 10%. So in reality, you'd be getting substantially less than even the 10% that they cap it at. There was also conversation at some point, I don't think this one made it in, but I'll be keeping an eye to make sure it doesn't come up somewhere else, and that for sure that it didn't make it in, was not allowing cities to decide whether or not they take parkland or cash in lieu, but allowing the developer to make that decision, which obviously kind of throws our park planning out the window. I mean,
How many swamps?
And what are they gonna give us?
yeah,
like-
it'd be unusable little chunks of land here and there to meet that requirement, and then nothing. So,
Have large apartment buildings on 32-foot streets with no parking on site. Everybody will park in the street.
What could go
It
wrong?
makes sense. Yeah, it totally makes sense. They couldn't beat us in the courts, so now they're beating us with the dummies in St. Paul.
Well, and
pretty much.
This could even happen in areas that are on septic. Like, this is, this is just.
Even
so-
non-MUSA?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
any lot, any residential.
it's a
Building
disaster.
rights goes
It's
away.
an absolute disaster if this were to pass.
Kind of messes with the organic recycling, doesn't it?
Creates a
I
need
think
for
the
it.
whole idea is organic recycling.
Well, can we put together language of disapproval of
Yeah,
these
so
and
this would-
retaining local control?
This would be my suggestion. We direct staff to, and Jay and I probably can get this done pretty quick. We've been having some pretty
Lot
lengthy
of
discussions
conversations.
on this and have some good places to go for the bullet points. Put together a resolution that we could vote on the 28th.
If I could, Mayor, if there's a way that we can do it sooner, I've seen some, and I think you've seen it too, that there's some effort to try and get this to the floor sooner.
Yep.
As soon as the 22nd. I wouldn't want us to fail to get our voice heard
That was
by waiting until the 28th.
Yep, that was my next part, is if council would be comfortable with it, I guess authorizing Jay and myself to send that letter out earlier if it looks like it's going to come to the floor for a vote earlier than the 28th. And if not, then we just bring it to at the 28th.
As far as I'm concerned, you can send it out under my name with whatever you want to write.
Send it tomorrow if you can.
I'll make a
mine, too.
motion authorizing the mayor and Jay to
Second.
draft a letter and send it to legislature as soon as they get it done.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Would this go to every legislator or just our legislators?
We will all for sure send it to our legislators, and probably specific chairs of committees that it may go to. And then I would reach out to the league and probably have it go through their network of where they send out these type of resolutions and advocacy.
I suggest you send it to the governor too.
If I can get his,
Email
sure.
address.
Yeah, I'm sure it's out there somewhere.
This is the
More than
craziest
happy to.
piece of legislation that would ever impact Corcoran by
Yes.
10.
Yep.
So if you are wanting to track the hearing, the next hearing will be the State, City, and Veterans Committee. I haven't seen if it's hit the agenda yet.
Hasn't yet, but I sent, I believe it's Chair Dietzick on that one. I sent her an email this afternoon asking if she could clarify when that will be up, because it's not on their agenda. So They don't have to update their agendas to like just before their meetings, but I'm hopeful that she'll respond with when that will be coming, and I'll make sure to keep Jay informed so that he can keep you guys informed and we can keep the public informed.
Does this
That's what
literally
we-
impact every single city in Minnesota? Oh, okay. At least we're not alone.
Yeah.
But it's worse for
At least they
another
want to destroy everything. Okay, so we did have a motion and the second on that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Very loud aye.
Thank you. And then, with that, we have just our closed.
Oh, before we do that,
Oh,
the
I'm sorry.
schedule discussion, Mayor?
Yes, go ahead, Jay.
So wanted to get guidance from the council. We had for second quarter projected a work session with the Parks and Trails Commission that's going to focus on, we have 3 plans that will be going from HKGI for the Parks and Trails Commission to look at the next meeting. And we want to try and get a joint session to discuss that, as well as the request council had to look at sources and uses of our parks dedication dollars and so just want to clarify the date. And then also, we were looking for a work session. Originally, we were going to bring in the Met Council and do a joint session with the Planning Commission to discuss Met Council. In light of this evening's conversations, I would request that we consider changing the agenda item for that joint commission to be our ordinance and code concerns.
Yeah, the Met Council, just for the record, the Met Council is not advocating for this bill,
Correct.
which is a shock to me. It was,
And I think some will be coming from specific members soon that are advocating.
Yeah, our Met
In
Council
opposition
rep
to the bill.
has definitely voiced
Yeah.
her opposition.
because I had a meeting with the Land Use Advisory Committee, and they assured us it's not coming from us.
They had the same questions people I've spoken to of who pays for that infrastructure. Met Council doesn't know. It's a scary thought. They're saying too much density.
So just requesting for those 2 work sessions in the second quarter, want to clarify what works best for the council and request clarification, those agenda items. That would be my recommendation.
Okay. I guess let's do the second one first. Regarding the changing of topic, I think that makes sense with what we have given tonight's conversation. Does that work for everyone else?
For which one?
For the, I don't have the dates actually in front of me.
March 28th was the second one, the planning or Parks and
So
Trails
this
meets
is
next
second
week.
quarter.
Oh,
Second
okay,
quarter.
hold on, let me bring it up.
Second quarter work session. Sorry.
That's okay.
May 23rd was the one with the planning commission.
Thank
So
you.
that one would be, thank you. So May 23rd would be the planning commission to look at code. The timing of that might be really good, actually, in terms of us moving towards solidifying the topic of the moratorium as well as some of the other concerns.
Yeah. Does that work for everyone?
Does that work?
And does that work for everyone already called then, I'm assuming?
Did we want the Met Council at that one?
No, so
No.
we're
Don't
gonna
want
scratch
that.
the Met
Okay.
Council, and focus
Yes.
on the.
Yes, that works for me.
Okay, great.
And that's already called, right?
Correct.
Okay.
I believe it's the Thursday before Memorial Day, you may want to double check, but that's the only reason to give pause.
I don't think we
It
have
is.
that one.
Good
The May
catch.
23rd.
We have a
We
council
have a
meeting
council
that night
meeting.
anyways.
That's
Well, yeah, but you're asking
All, right.
Very selfish group.
Yeah,
Gosh.
Excellent.
Donating their time.
God, family, Corcoran.
Aaron Bobroff.
Hey, I'm just trying to represent the other commissioners.
I
can go
get
anywhere.
it.
I'm like
One.
always.
The 23rd.
Yes, you are.
So I don't-
Correction, we had a template for the 23rd. It was May 23rd. Yeah, that's what that is. Yeah,
But
correction.
tentative, so
It
we
was- it
should
was
call.
So,
tentative,
we,
so-
yeah, and maybe at the next meeting, bring that up with commissioners to see if no one's gonna be available then, maybe we look at rescheduling. But let's tentatively plan on,
Discussion too, we might, just depending on timeline, we might be able to do part of, some people could attend remotely too, if that's
Yeah.
I mean, I'm throwing it as an idea. I'm not saying we would have to, I'm just trying to, especially if we're trying to have it
As
lined
long as we
up.
don't throw up any profane pictures.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that could potentially.
But we
be-
can't come to one of your meetings and have a session. It has to be posted and everything, right?
Well, we could post it in that way, but we just,
Just throwing it out there.
Parks. session. We're in April.
Which would be,
Okay.
which would be May
Yeah, I guess I
2nd.
don't know what they have on their agendas.
Yeah, I don't either. I just kind of like word it together.
Yeah.
We could give to.
Well, maybe that's an option if for some reason that date doesn't work, we could look at potentially doing a council coming to, on a scheduled planning commission meeting or something like that. Just to have options.
Well, and you could have it early too that day.
Yeah,
Because they'd be coming to ours early anyway.
that's a good point.
Okay, I'll bring it up in April.
Sounds good. Keep us posted.
And then potentially the recommendation might be April 25th for the Parks and Trail Commission. I have to talk with JCB, and we have the next meeting is the 21st, so she could discuss that with them on the 21st.
Perfect. Is that one already called as well?
It is not.
No.
So neither of them are called.
I thought the May one was.
No.
The May 23rd was put in as tentative.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'll go ahead and, does that work for everyone, the 25th and the 23rd? Tentative, or somewhat tentative? Okay, I'll go ahead and call the work session, the joint work sessions, as laid out by Jay, on April 25th and May 23rd. And then if we need to look at adjusting those dates, we can do so at a later time.
Thank you.
Perfect. With that, the city council is going into closed session. City council is going into closed sessions to consider an offer for real estate under the authority of Minnesota Statute 13D.05 subdivision 3C3. The city is permitted to close a meeting to consider offers and counteroffers for the purchase or sale of real or personal property. The city council is going into closed session to consider an offer for real estate. The following properties are the subject of the closed meeting. PID 01119233200006, PID 24119233300001. We're in closed session.
Recording stopped.
Yeah.